the final time that family and friends will pay their respects to Harry, and which is the reason Mitch Williams was here and happy to spend some time, but he really wanted to be able to spend some time with Harry. The same with Ricky Bottalico, the same with Larry Christensen. You know, this is the opportunity for friends and family of Harry to pass by the casket and pay their final respects.
It says a lot about the family, too, in that they wanted to share this moment, as personal as it is. They wanted to share this moment with the fans, and they wanted to share it with the people that Harry loved, not just the immediate family. And it's a private moment that we're watching, and they've allowed all of us to be part of it, which I think is a very special thing for this family to have done.
And it's also it's such a personal thing for the fans. And when you see everyone coming out, and some of them have been sitting here since 7:30 this morning, because the Phillies were kind enough to open the gates early for all those who have been out there since last night. Some of them came in, and they have been sitting here. And I don't believe that the concession stands are open for... actually, that's not true. They are giving away soda and pretzels.
They're giving away soda and some other things to eat, yes.
And parking was free today. Pretzel, sodas were free today. But if you've been sitting around since 7 o'clock in the morning, that's a long time. A kiss for the casket and a lot of tears on this day, as Harry's close friends and family spend a moment or two for the last time. And that's the other thing, Leslie, that I really wanted to bring up with you is all week we've been hearing about the outpouring of love and support by the fans. And these fans of Philadelphia get unfairly and unwarranted criticism around the country. And I really think that during this week we have seen what Philadelphia fans are made of and how much love they have in their hearts.
Members of the Ashburn family to pay their final respects.
Dan Baker, he's actually calling out different families to come down one at a time. This is the Ashburn family. And,
you know,
huge applause, very warm applause.
One of the things that you know, we haven't talked about is the fact that the family, including his son Richard Ashburn, are strong advocates for the fight against heart disease. Of course, as we learned earlier this week, Harry too passed away because of heart disease. So the tie that binds continues with these two, and these families will, and no doubt, join together to continue that fight.
And they are joined because of Harry and Whitey, and there's Richard Jr. Leslie, I know you know from your Heart Association
home runs
meetings,
for heart.
Home Runs for Heart.
That's coming up in May, and I know that that Richard,
members of the media and the Phillies family to pay their final respects.
I know that Richard had a very strong affection for Harry because of how much he meant to his father.
I think Dan just asked for members of the media.
The media
to go down, and
the
Phillies family,
yes.
which is everyone else. And there's David down low with his wife, Lynn. Rob Brooks, Phillies broadcast manager, and you talk about a guy who has been through it all this week. Rob was the one who found Harry when he was first stricken. And there's Merrill Reese, the great Merrill Reese, Bill Campbell behind him. Talk about broadcast pioneers. Bill Giles. As Larry Shank said, normally the voice over these proceedings would be Harry. And today he's the subject. Harry was so proud of his family, Leslie, and he did a lot of work, as do I, with the ALS Association of Greater Philadelphia, as that Phillies flag flies at half-staff and has all week, and will continue to. But they had a showing of Tuesdays with Maury in Wilmington a couple of years ago, and Harry was the MC. And Harry called up Kane impromptu. Said, my son is here, and he sings. Kane, would you come up? So before the showing of Tuesdays with Maury,
Yep.
Kane Callis came up on stage.
Had no idea how much he really sang.
There's the SportsNet family on the left.
Chris Wheeler.
John Slobotkin on the right. Jeffrey C. Halleckman. I mean, how many times have you heard Harry say that? Our producer, Jeffrey C. Halleckman.
That's Jeff right behind.
There's
right
Wheels.
behind Wheels.
In front of
Jackie
Wheels.
Shore.
Yeah, Jackie Shore from the Associated Press. J.R. Aquila. John DeSangro, who was John Cheney's right-hand man for so many years at Temple
Scott
before
Graham.
joining us at Comcast SportsNet. Scott Graham, one of the voices previously of the Phillies, filing by. This is when, you know, they're not...
These are people who
Yeah.
spent, you know, perhaps more hours with Harry than his family was able to sometimes, because they all are here at the ballpark.
And I think the other tribute to Harry is that, you know, you hear about homers in sport, people who don't realize what, you know, when their team is at fault, so to speak. You never heard anyone criticize Harry for that.
No.
Never, not once.
Yeah, but, and you know, Mitch said it well earlier when he said he really just he was able to call the game like it was without criticizing, without you know, kicking dirt on the situation. He was somebody who these guys turned to for a smile, you know, and to be that kind of person is a gift. He had a gift with people in the way he was able to make them feel good.
At the same time, you know, we call it the own nose tape.
Yeah.
And we showed it a
Makes
couple
you
of
laugh
times during the
every
week.
time you hear
It's hysterical. And the first excerpt was Billy Wagner, who had come over from Houston, and it was the 06 season, I guess, and they were right in the pennant race, and he gives up a home run to his former team. And Craig Biggio pops one over the fence, and Harry could not contain his disgust for the situation. The runs are all unearned, but who cares? And he would say, the other clip was, I've never seen the Phillies play this sloppily, so he would call it as he saw it.
Yeah, it's just it's a gift to be able to call a game with few words and say so much. I mean, you know, as we were talking about earlier, there's this sort of seems to be this need to fill time and space, and I think he just did such a great job of saying so little, but having it mean a lot. And you understood, you got what he was saying.
We should all also point out, you know, Harry gave that tribute prior to the games resuming in September of 2001 after the terrorist attacks. Harry was a radio man in the Army, so he served this country. And in fact, I thought there might have been a flag on that casket, because he certainly is deserving of that as well. And so when he spoke from the heart. Is that Skip Memory Lane Clayton? Error on the lane. And we've been hearing stories. He's become legend now, Skip Clayton. And
Yep.
Skip would sit in the press box at Veterans Stadium, and every foul ball, and Tom LeMaine told the story great on WIP the other morning, but if you sat by Skip and any foul ball came up his way, or anywhere by the press box, Skip would look over to Harry. Harry would give him the, you should have had it. Come on.
Yes.
Another error on the lane.
Yeah. You know, I think it's worth reading some of what is here in the program
Sure.
that they've handed out. One of the sections that it's a beautiful program for fans to take home and remember Harry by, and there's a section, Harry and the fans, and it says, Phillies fans are the greatest fans in the world, a quote from Harry. Harry Callis loved the fans and repeated his feelings so many times during his 38 years as a Phillies broadcaster. A genuine human being, Harry was genuine in his opinion of the millions of Phillies fans. The entire Callis family recognized Harry's affection for the fans, and they felt it was only fitting to hold this memorial tribute so that fans can pay their last respects. Harry loved the ballpark, and Citizens Bank Park is the appropriate location. To share his affection for the fans, the Phillies are providing this memorial tribute program and a copy of the Harry Callis commemorative print that was distributed to all fans last night. Harry's wife, Eileen, wanted all fans to have a copy of the poem Harry wrote when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame 7 summers ago. In addition to loving the fans and his family, Harry loved the game and the players. Love is a constant when talking about Harry. Fans loved him. Players loved him. Everyone loved his calls on the air. He shared his love with so many people, a lesson we should all follow. Since his passing, the family has been overwhelmed with the love and affection shared by so many people. They are extremely appreciative and offer a most sincere thank you.
Beautifully written, and everyone in attendance today gets to take one of those home, and I don't think we can, underscore enough how...
Program there, that is the cover of the program. It's a 2-page program with the 2 inserts, one with the poem on the back and the other with the picture that I think this was just last week, wasn't it? When he threw the...
It was opening...
for the ring ceremony.
Yeah, it was for the ring ceremony.
I'll hold this up in case we want to get a shot of it, but with the signature of
Phillies red blazer.
Yep. Yeah, well, you could spot Harry because if you saw it, you could see the white shoes or the white belt and then the red blazer last week. Did he have the white shoes on that
black
day?
Shoes.
More black shoes that day, but oftentimes Harry had on his white loafers and just again, there's a smile there that that we're gonna miss. We're gonna miss seeing.
And that's the one thing I don't think you can underscore that enough. His temperament, because I mean, you know how much people come up to you, and I know how much people come up to me when we're on the street. At times that exponentially for Harry. There was nowhere that he would go, certainly in Philadelphia, if not other baseball cities, there was nowhere that he would go where people wouldn't want to talk to him. And I'm telling you, there's sometimes you're just not ready for it.
Yep.
And I've not heard one person ever, forget about what's happened over the past week, one person ever say anything other than he was an absolute mensch. And he was. The media continuing to file by the casket, and that's Harry's Blazers, Chase Utley, and I guess is that J-Roll?
That's J-Roll with the
holding Harry's
with the
white shoes.
There's the shoes.
Oh, that's great. I didn't see that. That's fantastic.
I didn't either. And the players have been, these guys, they've been somewhat quiet this week, trying to go about their business. I can't imagine how difficult it is to go about your job, to come out and, this was supposed to be the sort of the week the celebrations were then, we did the celebrating, they were put aside, and the team was to move on and get an opportunity to play some baseball and try to, get back to form. And so this is especially difficult for the team because they're trying to mourn the loss of somebody that they're all very close to, and at the same time play baseball.
Yeah. And
that's a challenge. That's a big challenge. And the players are here today too to pay their respects. And the family and friends continue to come through, the media members. That's what also, he touched all of us.
Oh yeah.
Touched all of us because he was more than gracious when it came to sharing time. There's Phil Martelli and Fran Dunphy.
That's got to be. I mean, we're talking about how far Harry goes back. 1971, and I don't know how old Phil and Fran were then, but whether Fran was playing at LaSalle then or Phil was in high school, but for all intents and purposes, Harry's been calling Phillies games since they were old enough to remember also. There's Dutch, Darren Dalton, Robin Roberts behind him.
John Kruk as well. The coaches versus cancer event is tonight, and so of course the basketball coaches will be moving on and going to that event as they continue to raise money for a great cause. And I would imagine that they'll all raise a glass tonight in celebration of Harry, and as I think everybody should, celebrate his life, and he would have wanted that. A nice toast. Harry would appreciate that from everybody, I'm sure. I
saw Herb McGee down there as well from Philadelphia University. people from all walks of sport, all walks of life here today. And this has got to be, you know, I don't recall what Whitey's was like. I know it was 12 hours. And I think Rich Hoffman was saying on Daily News Live that the Ashburn family greeted mourners for 12 hours at Memorial Hall. The Phillies team came in uniform. They'd had a game that night, but that was at a request of the Ashburn family that they attend the memorial in uniform, and they did.
I'll tell the story again.
Sure.
Telling it earlier in the week, the day of Richie Ashburn's funeral, and I never had the honor of meeting Richie. I arrived here in Philadelphia in August of '97, and somehow I never met him, and he passed away in September. And that day I was in the press room. We weren't on the air yet, and I was sitting having dinner, and Harry sat down across from me. And while we were eating, and I just obviously was getting to know everybody, while we were eating, they started playing the memorial service, and behind us on the TV, re-airing it. And they were re-airing Harry's eulogy, and Harry started to cry. And I didn't know him well, and here was this legend of a broadcaster sitting across from me, and I asked him if he wanted me to leave out of respect. I didn't want to, you know, this was a moment he was having, and he said, no, I don't want you to go anywhere. And, you know, he took a deep breath and carried on the conversation and with grace and dignity, and, you know, it was probably, you know, the hardest day in his life, because people have said since then that Harry's never really been the same since Whitey passed away. He was truly his best friend.
Yeah. I think a little of the twinkle in his eye was diminished when Whitey passed away, and understandably, there's Ed Stefanski.
His love of the game never changed.
Mark Zumoff.
His love of the game didn't change. But yes, I think you're right. That spark, that little sparkle, that edge. Well, and you know what? It was his partner. There was a chemistry, a synergy between the two that those are once in a lifetime things.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering about the current Phillies team members, because we have not seen them. There is a game tonight.
It's my understanding that they will be given an opportunity to come out and pay their respects at the end. They'll be the last group that will be out, or at least given the opportunity. I don't think anything's mandated on a day like this, but
yeah, and that's been the difficult part of all this, because they're trying to celebrate Harry's life. They're grieving, and at the same time, you know, you got ball games. It is a business, and you know, you've got to concern yourself with running this ballpark, making sure the team tries to win games.
Well, and Harry wouldn't want to get in the way. He is, you know, you hear that after people go about celebrating life. These are Harry's colleagues, past and present, people who've worked with him, had the opportunity to sit next to him in the booth. I'm sure a real honor for them now, if they didn't feel it before.
Excuse me for interrupting. I think Dan Baker just introduced the Phillies broadcasters,
yeah, the
which
Phillies
is what,
broadcasters, so his colleagues, past and present.
And so that's why you heard that very warm applause. There's Wheels and Sarge going down, and Chris Wheeler, such a tough time with this one. I see Andy Mustard there, former Phillies broadcaster, and you know, you feel for them, because as difficult as it is for us, these men saw Harry every single day. There's Larry Anderson, who has been distraught throughout much of the week, smiling through tears. J.R. Aquila, director, producer.
Yep.
John DeSangro. There's Jeff Halleckman, who worked with Harry for many, many years on the Phillies broadcast. And as L.A. goes into the dugout, huge cheer, warm ovation for Larry Anderson, who, as you said, Leslie, said he would not be able to hear High Hopes again unless it was Harry singing it. Even if it was Francis Albert, he probably wouldn't want. The other
Members of the Phillies alumni have just been announced, so you know, players from teams gone by. I'm sure there will be a lot of familiar faces here, as we've already seen in the stands. People traveling in from out of town. Darren Dalton's here. He lives in Clearwater. You know, Dutch getting an ovation as he waves.
They have put, most of the fans are behind the first base dugout, the Phillies dugout, and they kind of extend toward home plate. And so when familiar faces exit the field and go down into the dugout, the fans...
Dutch getting a huge ovation.
The fans see them full face, and Donna and Mike Schmidt out there.
Dallas Green made his way past.
As we mentioned, this is the 22nd anniversary of Michael Jack's 500th Jack, and also at how much that underscores the passing of time. To see Mike Schmidt.
Mike couldn't even look.
Yeah, I mean,
he just touched. Everybody handles these situations so differently too, because it's such a personal thing. You know, people come here to mourn, and it's personal, yet it's
Mike
so
Schmidt,
public today.
Huge ovation for Mike. Maybe it was for Donna. I don't think so. Well, you know how it's gone with Mike here. The other thing, talking to Charlie, and there's Dick Allen, great Richie Allen, LC, who we talked to earlier, coming through. But talking to Charlie yesterday during batting practice around the cage, and he said the guys have been quiet. There's an ovation for it. Maybe that's Steve Carlton. I can't. Yeah, Steve Carlton and LC thinks it's for him, and part of it is for him. But Lefty getting a big applause. Greatest left-handed pitcher of all time.
Harry, of course, a big part of the calls that surrounded Steve Carlton's great moments.
Fans actually, they're standing less when these former Philly greats leave the field, and you just saw them all sit down. And but anyway, talking to Charlie yesterday around the batting cage, around that area, right where Harry's casket is now, right where Dan Baker stands behind that podium, and just sauntered up to Charlie and gave my condolences. And first time I'd gotten to see him. And
here comes Charlie.
Oh wow! Here comes Charlie
and the rest of the team
in uniform. Here comes Jimmy Rollins, Brett Myers.
This has been a tough one for Brett Myers this week. Obviously, he's been very close to Harry. Charlie doesn't want to go alone. Charlie, of course, had to say goodbye to his mother, June, during the World Series last year.
That is something. Sunsplash day. And these players, in the prime of their lives, their physical lives, and they come and salute one of their own. Guy who sat in the back of the plane with them, drank with them, laughed with them. Training staff.
Jamie Moyer stopping, pay his respects. Jamie Moyer will be speaking. Of course, the Phillies training staff, athletic trainers, Frank Kopenbarger, of course, members of their public relations department, Greg Castriato, Kevin Gregg.
I don't know that those uniforms ever look so white as they do today. I know one thing, that the whole team's never sat in the stands.
A different perspective.
And here's Dan Baker as we begin the proceedings.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Ashburn.
Harry always wrote poems. When my sister Jan passed away, when my dad passed away, I came home the other night and my wife, Lisa, had written a poem about Harry, and I'd like to share it with you. Harry the K. His voice would melt butter. There could be no other to replace our Harry the K. He was a kind man, would engage any fan, and never turn someone away. He had a great smile and plenty of style. High hopes was his motto and song. When he'd shout, "Out of here," we would all stand and cheer to know that the ball was long gone. With his partner and friend, he's reunited again, and they'll call the plays from above. Though our voice is now gone, you'll grace heaven with your song. Harry, know that you go with our love. Lisa Ashburn.
Thank you, Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, representing millions of Phillies fans is Joe O'Loughlin of Springfield, Delaware County, a longtime Phillies fan and friend of the Callis family.
This is a day we mourn the passing of a good friend and we celebrate his life. How could you do justice to the legacy of our friend Harry, a man who touched so many lives for so many years? We can start by doing what we're doing today, recalling and remembering what was so special about Harry the K. Harry used his God-given talent to magically capture the sounds and rhythms, the hopes and dreams, and indeed, the very heart and soul of this community. He took us along a magnificent journey that spanned 4 decades across emerald fields of green. Children like me grew up listening to Harry by their dad's side, then became parents themselves, right with Harry, the talented troubadour of our national pastime, right alongside us. Harry represented the best of what it means to be a fan. He did not have to throw a pitch, hit a slider, or field a grounder in order to become the cherished treasure who could elevate the collective spirit of this town. The homers seemed to go that much further, and they were that much more majestic when accompanied by his famous "out of here" call. Victory was that much sweeter when Harry proclaimed, struck him out, the Phillies are the 2008 champions of baseball. But just as importantly, his calming tones provided much-needed reassurance during those tough seasons and heartbreaking defeats. A true friend stays with you when things are the bleakest. Harry Kalas was that true friend. You always tuned in, no matter what standings the club was in, because Harry, he helped us find joy, even in the midst of adversity. It is fitting that Harry was the son of a minister, because he was our preacher who found his pulpit in the booth and used the microphone to deliver to you, his beloved flock, the fervent Philly faithful, his message of joy and love and, oh yes, high hopes. Harry's message reverberated through those dulcet tones across every race, creed, and denomination, bringing everyone together. For Harry was a uniter. Many people share stories of how Harry would always be willing to leave a message with his distinctive voice on their cell phones. It was never an inconvenience for him. He considered it a privilege. And the ironic thing is this, that all the while Harry was doing those countless good deeds, he was delivering a more important message: care about one another. Think about it. People love to try to imitate Harry's voice, his distinctive style. A moment ago, I asked, how can we best honor his legacy? I'd like to think the answer is this: let us all continue to imitate his voice. When someone needs a friendly word, do what Harry the K would do. Stop for a moment and brighten their day. When someone's spirits need a boost, do what Harry would do. Share a kind thought and a bit of inspiration. And when we imitate Harry, we will say to so many of life's problems, you're out of here. So Harry, even though you've left this world, your voice will always remain strong, for it will echo in that special place you gained in our hearts, and forever it will go on and on. God bless you, Harry. Say hi to my dad in heaven.
Thank you, Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, Phillies broadcaster Tom McCarthy.
On behalf of all the Phillies broadcasters and the Phillies family, we want to thank each of you, the fans, for all that you have done to show your affection for Harry and support for his family over this past week. He often said that Philly fans are the greatest in the world, and he was never more correct than this past week. We felt your collective embrace throughout the week, and we thank you. What a beautiful day to honor a beautiful man. I'd like to turn things over to a true leader, the president of the Philadelphia Phillies, David Montgomery.
On behalf of our entire Phillies organization, thank you for joining us today as we pay tribute to our friend Harry. Thanks for attending, but thanks to those many people who prayed, made a phone call, sent a letter, sent an email, or simply remembered our man. I reflect on three groups in particular that he touched so impactfully. First, the fans, because Harry always put the fans first. He connected with the fans like none other. The reason? Our fans felt his passion for our game. They loved him for it, and he loved them in return. Next, our players, past and present. Our players saw him not as a member of the front office, not really as a broadcaster. They saw him as a teammate. He was and is one of them. Yet, when a player accomplished something special, the first thing they did was gather around and say, "I can't wait till I hear how Harry called it." Finally, on behalf of all of us in the front office, his co-workers, those of us that had the opportunity to work with him for so many years, he was special. A warm, gracious, and fun-loving man. As with our fans, he made us all feel so very special. He always had time for each and every one of us. Harry's talent was making moments into memories. Memories that will last forever. We lost a gifted broadcaster, but more than that, we lost our friend, a gracious and special man. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'd now like to bring up the Honorable Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Mr. Ed Rendell.
He was always there. Whether we were driving in a car, sitting on a beach, ducking out of a wedding reception to get a quick update on the score, listening through waves of static while we're away on vacation in some faraway state, or hiding under the covers with a portable radio turned down so low that our parents couldn't hear it. He was always there. He was a part of our lives. He could make us laugh, and he could make us cry. He taught us to love the game every bit as much as he did. I've always believed that baseball is the most magical of all sports because the season lasts for 7 months and there seems to be a game almost every day. It has a special rhythm to it. the ebbs and the flows, the winning streaks and the losing tailspins, the optimism of early May and the tension of late September. And through it all, he was there. For 38 wonderful, exhilarating, sometimes frustrating, but always fun-filled years. 38 years. 6,156 regular season games, plus the 6 more this year. If you're old enough, and I surely am, he was there for you each and every one of those 6,162 games. And if you're a fan enough, you tried your very best to either hear or watch all or part of every one of those 6,162 games. And if you did, you knew that he was always there. It is said that if we're lucky, we'll live to see 25,000 days. So think of it. For me, and millions like me, Harry was a part of 1/4 of the days that we will live. He truly was always there. But Harry was not just a great announcer and the voice of our beloved Phillies. He was also there when the city and the region needed him. He was there back in 1992 when the city was broke, and yet we wanted to open the pools and reopen our pools in time for the summer for our kids. Harry, along with Bill and David, led the Pull for the Pools initiative that raised enough money to do just that. He was there every year to MC the Delaware County Veterans Parade, and every Christmas he went to the Fair Acres Retirement Home to serenade the seniors with Christmas carols. He was there for so many of us who used to come up to him and say, "I'm sorry to interrupt your dinner," and of course then we did, and asked him for pictures and autographs. And Harry never said no. He was there for hundreds of us who asked him to be the voice on their answering machine. So you see, David, in a way, he was our voice too. He was even there for a couple by the name of Ron and Kathleen, as John Gonzalez recounted just a day ago. John and Kathleen were getting married, and they sent Harry a letter asking him to record something about their wedding. They had never met Harry. They didn't know him, but they felt about him like he was a family friend. And of course, Harry accommodated them. And his recording ended with a truly classic ending. He said, and this will be a weak imitation, but he said, "Ron and Kathleen are headed for their honeymoon. They're going on a long drive. They're out of here." And with that, the bride and the groom went on their way. Although Harry died preparing to do what he loved best, I would have dearly loved to see him go with the team the next day to the White House to meet the president. As Jack McCafferty wrote, can you imagine Harry Callis, the man who made the term Mickey Morandini sound so lyrical? Can you imagine what he would have done with President Barack Obama? When he was inducted to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, Midge and I were happy and lucky enough to be there, as so many of you were. He included an ode to the fans as part of his acceptance speech. And he ended the poem by saying to us, "I love you." Well, Harry, we loved you back. Mike Schmidt, the greatest Philly to play during Harry's time, said yesterday, "His voice will resonate in my mind for the rest of my life." Well, Harry, Schmitty spoke for all of us.
He's always been Philadelphia's #1 fan. Governor Ed Rendell, boy, that was beautiful. As the governor mentioned, Harry was so much about Philadelphia, and a gentleman who knows that in a very short period of time, the Honorable Mayor of Philadelphia, Mr. Michael Nutter.
To Eileen and Todd and Brad and Kane and Julie and Travis and Cole and entire Callis family, the big family, the Phillies organization, the players, and the Phillies family, the incredible fans of Philadelphia, the region, across the country and around the world. This is it's a very tough moment for us. Earlier this afternoon, I was talking with some folks and said that it's a very sad time, but it's such an occasion to celebrate a great life lived, and a great person who brought a lot of people together. And when all is said and done, whenever we've done whatever it is that we're going to do, if what can be said about any one of us is that we were a good person, cared about people, did our job the best that we could, that's not bad. That and much more can, of course, be said about Harry Callis. As I was standing in the dugout and so many people came by and I shook hands with everyone, the #1 remark that people made was, "Sorry for your loss." The entire city of Philadelphia has suffered a great loss by not having Harry around. And as the governor did just a little while ago, and I won't try to do the imitation myself, but I'd like us all to admit, just kind of privately, that in those moments, just about every one of us tries to imitate Harry Callis. Because it really is true. You can admit it. A great fan of the game, and no matter where you were, even if you weren't at the Vet or at this ballpark, Harry made you feel like you were right at the game, a part of the action, almost on the field. A warm personality, always with a smile. He epitomized the Philadelphia Phillies. The players may come and go, the fans may come and go, the season may be up, the season may be down, but there was a great consistency for a long, long period of time about Harry Callis. His physical voice may have left us, but Harry Callis will never be out of here. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, for years, we as members of the Phillies organization, the Phillies family, we shared Harry with so many people, and that was a good thing. There was so many fall and winter afternoons on the weekend where we'd be driving from one place to another, and we'd hear his voice on a national football game on Westwood One. And it was as embracing as listening to him do a baseball game. I always said he was one of the best football announcers that I've ever heard, and I learned so much from him from that standpoint. Well, for 34 years, and I know everybody out here has heard them, Harry was also the voice of NFL films, and wasn't he great at it? First, John Facenda, another Philadelphia product, then Harry Callis. Those replays of games that were played the previous weekend were things that we look forward to outside the baseball season. And here is the president of NFL Films, Mr. Steve Sable.
You know, hearing you say that reminded me of how privileged everyone at NFL Films has been to have had the honor to work with the two greatest voiceover talents in the history of sports television, John Facenda and Harry Kalas. As I was coming to the ballpark today, I drove over the Walt Whitman Bridge, and I was reminded of one of his poems. And in it, he wrote, "There are two mighty sounds, the sound of the sea and the sound of the wind. I'd like to add a third mighty sound, the voice of Harry Kalas, rising to the roar of the crowd." He was the voice of the Phillies. He was the sound of this city. As a baseball play-by-play broadcaster, he brought our dreams to life. As a narrator for NFL Films, he preserved our memories. Behind a microphone, he was flawless. He could do anything. For a friend, he would do everything. For a fan, a charity, a cause, Harry was always there to help. Sincerity, authenticity, warmth, the qualities that we loved in Harry's voice were also the touchstones of his life as a broadcaster, as a husband, as a father, and a friend. And I suspect that there are a lot of people here today that, with the exception of their own families, we've heard Harry's voice more than any other voice in our life. And if it's true that a man lives as long as he is remembered, and look at this turnout, look at all these people, and we know that Harry Kalas will be with us forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You know, you do this long enough, you touch so many lives. Think about a youngster growing up in the Philadelphia suburbs, a baseball fan, getting a chance as a fan to watch his favorite team win a world championship. That happened in 1980. Then, later on, you get drafted to play Major League Baseball. And eventually, you get a chance to play for your hometown team. And you win a world championship. That happened in 2008. How about as a player, knowing that the soundtrack of your childhood was only a matter of feet away? Well, that was and is the life of Phillies pitcher Jamie Moyer.
Like all of you, I'm a Phillies fan who is feeling a tremendous loss today. I got to know Harry when he first started broadcasting Phillies games in 1971, and I was a 9-year-old fan tuning in. That is when I met the voice. Years later, I had a chance to meet and get to know Harry the man. In 1986, I made my major league debut against the Phillies, and the first thing I thought of was that Harry Kalas would be saying my name on the radio. What a thrill for a kid from Pennsylvania. My wife Karen had known Harry already through her dad because he was a broadcaster of Notre Dame games. She always spoke so highly of Harry. Later that year, we were out for dinner, and Harry sent over a bottle of wine, and that is where the personal friendship began. As we all know, many times you meet people who you have admired, and they let you down a little. Not Harry. He was the real deal. Behind the microphone, there was none better. He painted a picture of the game like only he could, and the voice became part of our city. Away from the microphone, he was one of the most genuine, sincere, friendly, and warm people I have ever had the honor of knowing. Today, I grieve with my fellow Phillies fans as there will be no replacing Harry Kalas. But let's take this moment to also celebrate a life that has brought such joy to so many of us for so long. Thanks for the memories, Harry. We will never hear anyone utter the phrase, "Outta here," and not think of you. As David Montgomery said so perfectly, we have lost our voice, but the memories will remain. Thank you.
I would have to think that each and every one of you, members of the front office, Phillies fans, that back about 25 years ago, something changed in the way you looked at a player. You know, you knew their names, their first name, their last name. You might have even known their hometown. But it was a quarter of a century ago that you probably started to look up the middle names of all the players that wore a Phillies uniform. Come on, admit it. You had to have. Nobody's middle name was ever made more famous or whose career was called so eloquently than Michael Jack Schmidt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a sad time. Death brings unwanted emotions, fear, loneliness, and a finality. Death tests our faith. We can't hide from it. Its reality hits hard. Some will take longer than others to let it run its course. Our Harry Kalas is gone. We can't bring him back. We must grieve, but we must also not allow our grief to overpower our ability to celebrate his beautiful life. Psalm 116, verse 7 says, "Return to your rest, O my soul, for the Lord has dealt bountifully with you." I interpret that to mean God has called Harry home after a charmed and gifted life, a life in which we were fortunate to share, a life that only has one word to describe it: bountiful, as in that passage. Nothing describes Harry's life better than bountiful. There was nothing about Harry that suggested anything other than good times, smiles, fun, simply making people happy. Think about this man. Millions of people from March to October for 40 years depended upon Harry every day for entertainment. Working people, construction workers, cab drivers, office workers, the elderly, hospitalized and homebound, even children. Everyone's lives were made better by Harry Callis. I've had hundreds of phone calls and emails from friends. Fans have placed flowers around the city, around the stadium, in honor of his life. One friend said to me that he had listened to Harry over 4,000 times. He and we players had a special relationship. It was built on respect. We shared serious inside baseball discussions, but we also had our Harry sayings, facial expressions and gestures like a bunch of young kids. We loved when he made us look good, as he always did during a game. Often he'd stop in the clubhouse before a game to take the team's temperature, to pump us up, as they say. It always seemed like he knew what was going on with each one of us. He'd reference a hot streak, a great play, someone's history against a pitcher, anything to lift our spirits and confidence. He did this for 40 years with a natural sense of timing. Heck, he could even make me laugh before a game. Personally, I'll have a reminder of Harry every day. As you all know, every time someone refers to me as Michael Jack, often using the emphatic Michael Jack. Only the way he could, as you all know. You know, it's actually a brand. Over time, he branded all of us guys in some way. You know, it was the same with every hitter and every home run. It was the same with every pitcher and every strikeout, every employee, every broadcaster, every fan from every era. It was all the same. No one missed out. If we confronted him, or he us, it was a special moment. It was never about Harry. It was always about us. But Harry left us too soon, and with that came a jolt. We weren't prepared. We never got to retire his microphone, give him a retirement send-off night, or build a statue. Funny, he presided all over our special ceremonies, but never got one of his own. All we can do now is ponder his existence, reminisce about his life, imitate his stylish delivery, and recall his dry sense of humor. Most important, though, is Harry's legacy. You know, it's a simple legacy, yet on God's list, it ranks very near the top. It's not the voice that will ring in our ears or the 40 years of dedication to his work or his passion for the game. It's that every day, Harry was inspired to make people happy. His smile, his tone, simply his way affected us. He made us feel good. And that brought him a level of joy that many of us will ever know. You know, it's a high calling when you have that kind of a gift. The Philadelphia Phillies are truly a family and have lost a beloved member whose life should be celebrated. I believe Harry took his unique gift and passion for baseball and used it for good. Harry carried his mission out. He left nothing in the booth, and I believe was recently greeted at Heaven's Gate with "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Nothing more. Nothing more can be asked of a man's life. Nothing more. For all of us here today, I believe I can simply look up and say, Harry, thank you for entering all of our lives and making them better. And our prayers are that God's love and grace will be with you and your family forever. Thanks for coming.
Seems only appropriate that 22 years ago today, home run number 500 for Michael Jack Schmidt was called by Harry Kalas. It has been said that Harry has been the gift to Philadelphia, and there's no question about that. Harry not only was a gift to us, he passed on gifts. And he passed on his gift of a beautiful, storytelling voice to a young man who we heard sing so beautifully last night, so composed last night at a very young age. He was inspiring. Please help us welcome Kane Kalas. Thank you very much, Tom. Good afternoon, and thank you all so much for coming. On behalf of the Kalas family, I'd like to thank all of the speakers for your thoughtfulness and your kind words. They're truly a comfort to all of us. I'd also like to thank the entire Phillies community and everybody who stood by my father over the years. We really appreciate your love and your support. He loved each and every one of you back. You know, one of my father's greatest strengths in the booth, be it here at Citizens Bank Ballpark, at NFL Films, at the Puppy Bowl, or at the recording studio, getting ready to do Campbell's Chunky Soup, was his ability to convey emotion using his velvety voice. When the Phillies were down, the calmness and the assuredness of my father's voice let us know that there was still hope and that no matter what happened, tomorrow was another day. When the Phillies were winning, however, the excitement in my father's voice inspired us all. It excited us, and it raised our spirits. Similarly, as I grew up, my father's voice has been there for me. When I've been down and when I've had problems, a dilemma, I could count on my father to be there, because being in his presence and hearing his voice, I would know that everything would be okay. And on the same token, during the best times of my life, during my successes, the presence of my father and the encouragement and the support that he gave me instilled in me a deep-rooted desire to approach everything in my life with passion and with commitment, just as my father had done. My father loved this great city. He loved the Philadelphia Phillies, but most of all, he loved you, the fans. He loved each and every one of you,
Your unyielding support and commitment instilled in my father an eternal love for this great game. My father, over his career, had the opportunity to make a number of historic calls. Michael Jack's 500th home run comes to mind. Or in 1993, when we became the National League champions. Or, of course, last year, when we became 2008 World Champions of Baseball. These are all fond memories, and they will all be in our hearts together forever. But my fondest memory of my father occurred 5 years ago. The first time that I sang the national anthem here at a Phillies game. I still remember the look of honor, joy, and pride in my father's eyes when he looked at me and he said, "Son, I'm proud of you." Today, the only thing that I'd like to say is we are all deeply and profoundly proud of you, Dad. I love you. Thank you.
Well done, Kane. Harry had so many friends who he touched during the course of his life, inside and outside of baseball. One of those who was a very dear friend is here with us today. He is the president of Baseball Chapel, Vince Nuss.
You know, the Bible says that a good name is to be desired more than riches. And to be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Beyond the voice, the legacy of Harry Kalas is that he had a good name. And clearly, he was highly esteemed by everyone who ever crossed his path. Please join me as we close our memorial tribute in prayer. Almighty God, we acknowledge you as our Creator, the author of life. The Scriptures tell us that you have ordained all of our days and that you care for our every need. We thank you for the life of Harry Kalas, a man who exemplified the description of love found in the New Testament, that love is patient, that love is kind, that it does not envy or boast, and that love is not proud or self-seeking. We thank you for putting Harry in our lives, for giving us the opportunity to love him and be loved by him. This wonderful man, in a moving speech after 9/11, reminded us of the words of Jesus when Harry encouraged us to love one another. Lord, may we honor Harry's legacy with acts of kindness, by putting the needs of others ahead of our own, as he so humbly did, whether you were his best friend or a total stranger. In this hour of sadness, we especially pray for the Phillies family and for Harry's family. We ask that Eileen, Todd, Brad, Kane, Julie, Travis, and Cole will experience your love and find peace in the midst of their grief. Our Heavenly Father, grant that in our earthly pilgrimage, we too make an impact on others as Harry did so well. Amen.
Thank you, Vince. Ladies and gentlemen, throughout Harry's career with the Philadelphia Phillies, he touched hundreds of players who have worn our pinstriped uniform. He also touched numerous people who were part of the regular traveling party. Harry Kalas considered each of them a special friend. Now, we ask that these special friends return to the field. Led by Bill Giles, who brought Harry to Philadelphia 38 years ago, it is only fitting that Harry Kalas pass through the people whose lives he touched so much.
He would listen to Frank Sinatra, Broadway tunes, and also Simon and Garfunkel. One of his favorite songs was Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
And I'm Todd Kalas.
And back in the day, in the early to mid-'70s, it was time for the 8-track player. We had an 8-track player in our car. So on the way to the game, he would hear Bridge Over Troubled Water, and he would sing along. And then he said a couple of times that when I reach my final resting place, this is a song I want to hear.
Dad, this one's for you.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I'll dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me when you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I'll comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness comes and pain is all around, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine. Oh, if you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind, like a bridge over troubled water. I will ease your mind, like a bridge over troubled water. I will ease your
The family felt it was fitting to to conclude today's memorial tribute with the singing of High Hopes by Eddie Bruce, longtime friend of the family. This will be followed by one last look at Dan Stevenson's video tribute to Harry Kalas.
Please join me, everyone, in a spirit of love and optimism and joy that is our friend Harry. When you are down, pick your chin off the ground. There's a lot to be learned, so look around. Just what made that silly old ant think he'd move a rubber tree plant? Everyone knows an ant can't move a rubber tree plant, but he had high hopes. He had high hopes. He had high apple pie in the sky hopes. So anytime you're feeling bad, instead of feeling sad, just remember that ant. Oops, there goes another rubber tree. Oops, there goes another rubber tree. Oops, there goes another rubber tree plant. Now listen, everybody. There's a second verse to that song, and I think we should hear the man himself sing it for us as he did so many times throughout our lives. So, Harry, take it away.
When you are down, lift your head off the ground. There's a lot to be learned, so look around. Once there was a silly old ram, thought he'd fight a hole in them. Everyone knows a ram can't on a hole in that damn body. He had high hopes. He had high apple pie in the sky. So when you start to feel it low, instead of letting go, just remember that ram. Up there goes a billion kilowatt. Up there goes a billion kilowatt. Up there goes a billion kilowatt day.
I've been lucky enough to have known Harry Kalas for over 25 years. But really, you only had to spend a few minutes around Harry to know what a great man he was. Gracious, humble, not a phony bone in his body. He was the eternal optimist, happily working his way through his lifelong love affair with baseball. And along the way, he wound up collecting 1 million or 2 close friends.
Brad's not here to take your call right now. He's like a 3-1 pitch to Ryan now. Long drive. He's out of here.
Harry was born with a gift, a vibrant voice, commanding and strong.
First base double play. Great play by Jay Johnston.
But like a musician, it meant nothing without a strong work ethic, a keen sense of timing, and plenty of soul. Harry always hit the high notes.
Swing a long drive. There it is. Number 500. The career 500th home run for Michael Jack Schmidt.
But the key to Harry's brilliance was his ability to color the quiet moments of the game, to provide a soft soundtrack to the summer.
This fine day here at Wrigley Field.
Supposed to rain tomorrow here, though.
Well, we'll be in Houston, Whitey.
Called my mother out in Nebraska, and that rain is headed this way that they're having now.
Do you smell it at all, or
no?
And together with his best friend, Richie Ashburn, they made wonderful music. For those of us in the Phillies family, it's been a privilege to work with Harry Kalas. As a player, we knew he was always in our corner. He understood how hard it is to play the game at this level. As a co-worker, there was no better person. He never placed himself above anyone. He was accommodating, cordial, and generous with his time. After reaching the pinnacle of his profession with his induction to the Baseball Hall of Fame, he would graciously sign autographs. Harry Kalas, HOF. We all thought the HOF stood for Harry, our friend. Those of us who had the honor to work with Harry have been extremely blessed. Yet he always considered the Phillies family to extend far beyond the team and staff. If you pulled for the team he called the Fighting, followed them through thick and thin, then Harry had a place in his heart for you. If you think of us all as a family, then Harry was like our favorite uncle. He was funny, always joking, the person who loved to entertain. At any kind of function, there was no better master of ceremonies. And through the dark times, he was the rock, always trying as best he could to get us through, to show us the light.
We must never resort to the thinking that created Tuesday's acts of terrorism. They were born of hatred. We as individuals, we as a nation, must never hate.
He helped us to leave our comfortable old home.
It's out of here. God bless you.
Then helped us move into our beautiful new one. In the fall of 2008, Harry got to fulfill his ultimate dream, to call the final out of the championship for his beloved Phillies. As we all got to bask in the afterglow of this wonderful ride, who could have imagined that we'd have to start the next chapter without Harry? So now we are left with a profound sadness, the empty feeling that something beautiful is gone. But like any great artist, Harry's body of work ensures us that he will live forever. As long as we keep him in our hearts, he will still be here.
Thought I saw you today. You were standing in the sun, and you turned away. And I knew it couldn't be, but my heart believed. Oh, it seems like there's something every day. How could you be so far away when you're still here?
How you doing?
When I need you, you're not home.
The oldest ball's out of here.
You're still here. I hear in my baby's eyes, and I laugh and cry. You're still here.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this afternoon. Harry loved you, and we love him. Thank you very much.
From the latest news, scores, and highlights to a preview of the next matchup, don't miss Wachovia Sports Night, tonight at 6:30, only on Comcast SportsNet. Nobody does Philly sports better.
Last few weeks. I got the new Comcast HD Triple Play, and I got free HD. Woo! I'm sorry? Yeah, I just had to tell somebody. Faster internet, unlimited calling, most HD anytime I want. It's pretty good. Woo! Thank you. That's how it makes me feel.
Get triple excited.
Free HD, faster internet, unlimited calling. The new Comcast HD Triple Play is here.
When you come into a John Kennedy dealership, there's one thing you'll always find. It comes standard with every car buying experience. It's the way John Kennedy makes your choice of options affordable, and the way we take care of you before, during, and after each sale.
Thanks for everything. So who are you anyway?
I'm Real Value. I come standard.
Real value comes standard at John Kennedy Chevrolet in Southampton.
Are you sure you're okay?
I'm good. I stay with the car.
All right, everybody, are you ready? A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I ever get back, for it's root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
That was Chicago. We are back in Philadelphia. Our Harry Kalas tribute almost concluded, and that was one of the most, as we bring in once again Leslie Goodell. That was one of the most wonderfully exquisite and at the same time agonizingly torturous events I've ever attended. It was beautifully, beautifully done by the Phillies and Harry's family.
The speeches, you know, there were 9 speakers, and the fact that, you know, there were standing ovations for some of them. Kane Kalas was so impressive, the son of Harry, his youngest son, just spoke so well of his father in a way that people understood. It wasn't in the way that people didn't feel like they knew him. You know, he spoke to them because he knows that they're his son's, daughter's, family members as much as he is. And it was a very touching tribute. Of course, touching to watch the fans as well, and I mean the players as well, past and present, be part of this, as, you know, and to say their goodbyes. It was difficult for all of us.
Fans are saying goodbye to Harry all week long. They filed in starting at 7:30 or so this morning. Gates were supposed to open at 8. And they,
yeah, 7:20 is when David Montgomery started shaking hands.
Amazing, with Bill Giles, and they filed by Harry's casket. It was an orderly procession. There's Mayor Nutter, everybody waiting in line, Mike Schmidt prior to the proceedings beginning, Larry Christensen and Steve Carlton, all of the dignitaries, all of the Phillies greats that could get here that weren't playing perhaps, like Pat Burrell, they were all here. And then Rich Ashburn, Richie's eldest son, and Larry Anderson, who voiced over that beautiful tribute to Harry that we just saw, and J.R. Aquila with the broadcast team, David Montgomery.
And then Jeanette Rendell.
Yeah, and then the team coming out, Leslie, in uniform at the end, punctuating the end of, I guess, everybody filing by was, wow, that was
one
heavy.
thing that was particularly touching to me, too, was Todd Kalas hugging the casket to say goodbye to his father. You know, everybody is going to have a lot of stories to share. You know, to kind of, there's Kane at the casket as well, saying goodbye to his father. There's their brother Brad here also. The line down the street came out the third base gate. That's Joe O'Loughlin, who was the speaker for the fans, if you will.
Tom McCarthy did just a beautiful job as really the MC of the day. There's Brett Myers, touched. David Montgomery. Here's David speaking so eloquently about what Harry meant to all of us, and of course Jamie Moyer, who grew up in Souderton, Pennsylvania, went to Souderton High School, and he said, when I made my debut in 1986, all I could think was that Harry Kalas would be calling my name and how much that meant to him.
The line extended down the third base line, down the street, past the ballpark, and another 100 or so yards away from the ballpark this morning as fans waited to get in here.
But this was the topper, Leslie, as Bill Giles and David Montgomery and Gary Maddox led Harry's casket to just a gauntlet, really, of all his friends. It was amazing, just amazing. As his casket was passed down, former players, alumni, trainers.
And some of the players like Jack Tashner, who's just joined the team, and Lou Marson, who haven't had the opportunity to get to know Harry, but knew Harry. And if you didn't know Harry before you got here, you knew him before he got here because you knew who he was. And you know, everybody having a different relationship with Harry Kalas, but this was a very touching moment as they played Bridge Over Troubled Waters, as he was passed down with all of the past and present players.
And no truer sign has been made. There's no crying in baseball till now. And we welcome in, at the end of our tribute to Harry Kalas, Bill Giles, replete with the white shoes. Nice touch. No.
Harry wore those white shoes.
Harry wore the white shoes.
And a white belt, but I didn't have a white belt.
Yeah. You know what? That was the most amazing send-off I've ever seen. I mean, Ronald Reagan had a great send-off. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, Dave Montgomery and Larry Schenck and the whole Philly staff. It was a wonderful tribute. I've never seen anything quite so great.
Yeah, and I just kept thinking, I'm not going to, all right, now I'm not going to cry. Okay, now it was amazing.
There were plenty of tears shed, and I would imagine it's been just an overall difficult week for you, Bill. Have you been able to take some time to reflect, or
Yeah, I've been thinking all the time, including way back to the ostrich race when he fell out of the thing, and the tricycle race when he and Richie did a tricycle race. You know, and you remember all the great calls and all the great things he's done, but we had some fun times doing crazy things too.
Yeah. I've known you for about 25 years, and we have not talked about. I've always wanted to ask you about bringing Harry to Philadelphia, because you made a major move. You replaced someone who was beloved in Bill Campbell. You bring in Harry Kalas, and a lot of people said, "Oh my goodness, this just won't do."
Yeah, that's right.
They know, huh?
It was not a popular move, but I was forced to have Campbell leave the air because of the beer sponsor conflict, and I knew who I wanted because he was spending 3 years with me in Houston, Texas. I was the marketing guy. He was the broadcaster, and I knew him as a person, and I knew how much he loved baseball and how much he loved the fans, plus his golden voice. And I knew eventually he was going to be good, but I didn't believe he was going to be quite this good.
Did you have to convince him much, or how'd you get him here?
No, it was a great. He and I, were friends, and he wasn't doing a whole lot of innings in Houston, and I told him he would do half the time here, and so he jumped at it.
what has the response been like from the people who have called you that also knew him? What sort of stories have you all shared this week?
Well, a lot of stories about the dog track. He used to like to go to the dog track.
Son
But
Todd talked
the
about
fact
that
that
the
he
other day.
was, everybody that ever knew him felt he was a close friend. I mean, that's the way he was. And I did get a whole bunch of, emails, and I got a lot of mass cards from people, and so the love affair between the city and Harry is undescribable.
Were you thinking of speaking, or?
Well, they asked me, Harry's wife asked me to speak, but I don't think I could have held myself. I mean, I don't think I could have done it without crying.
Yeah, well,
So,
I
and
think
plus,
The tears
and
are
plus,
supposed to be shed on a day
plus
like
Dave
this.
was going to speak. They had enough dignitaries. They didn't need me.
Favorite Harry story that you can impart, that you can tell? Because I know there were a lot were in hotel bars and after games and
It
stuff.
really involves the dog track thing. But we were coming back from the dog track, and his wife said, "Harry, I'm embarrassed you lost $300. And he said, "No, dear, I lost $600.
Let's get that correct.
Well, and Todd Kalas actually spoke of that earlier this week, that he had gone to the Derby,
Derby Lane, yeah.
Derby Lane in Clearwater with his dad about 5 days before the end of spring training, I think he said. But he left early. He said that was one of the first signs that he saw of Harry slowing down. Were you concerned with him because
I
of
was
his health?
very worried because I had a long chat or two with Harry in spring training, and I said, "Harry, you look pretty good. How do you feel?" He said, "Well, I'm not eating. I can't eat." And I said to myself, that's not good. And he had the circulation problems in his legs, and he wasn't able to exercise much in the last 10, 15 years. And I started worrying really in spring training about his health, but I was not, ready for it to happen so quickly.
This is, a lot of people have said this week that Harry passed away in the place that he probably would have chosen to pass away if you can pick your path.
That's exactly right. And the fact that he was able to do the 2008 World Series and make the great call at the end is special. I mean, if a man, I think, wants to die in where he works, if he loves his work, and he loved his work.
He sure did. And you christened the broadcast booth, the Harry Kalas broadcast booth, which was a nice touch. You're going to play out of here every home run. That's it. High Hopes gets sung in 7th inning. I don't know if you're going to continue that, but that sounds great.
The High Hopes will be this homestand, but the out of here will be forever.
The out of here will be forever.
Yes.
The fans, you know, you see so many young fans out here and mothers and fathers sharing this with their children. What do you want these young kids who didn't get the chance to know Harry to remember about him?
Well, I want them to remember how special baseball is and how special a broadcaster can be, because I had a neighbor who passed away recently who was blind. She couldn't see. But she lived for the first spring training broadcast. She said, "I live. I'm 93 years old, and what keeps me going is hearing Harry Kalas on the first spring training game and through October, hopefully. But when the season ends, I get depressed because I can't hear Harry Kalas."
And I thought that Tom McCarthy put it so beautifully, saying when we heard his voice on Westwood One during football season, it was as embracing as when we hear him during baseball season. Bill, thanks for being with us. Great to see you. I know it's a tough time, but we're all going to get through it together.
And thanks for letting all of us share in it with you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Bill Giles joining us with the white shoes to honor Harry's memories. He got those going. I saw those a mile away on the field. What a day. What a day here at Citizens Bank Park. And it started, as you said, Leslie, 7:20 this morning as the fans came in and brought mementos. And everybody, I tell you what, they took directions perfectly, because the Phillies said, please leave everything outside the ballpark at the Mike Schmidt statue. They did that, and they brought in and they paid their best respects to their friend.
It was, I knew it was going to be a difficult day. It has been emotional. We'll all leave here with heavy hearts, but also know that we've been fortunate to have been touched by Harry Kalas.
Yeah, it's been a full morning and afternoon. We have to thank Mitch Williams and Bill Giles and Ricky Vitalico and Larry Christensen and
Larry
David
Shank.
Montgomery and Larry Shank for sharing their stories. And we thank all of you, and we have the pleasure and the privilege of being in your homes. And Harry took that very seriously. Harry loved you all, as do we. And, you know, we're going to say goodbye from Citizens Bank Park with our own video tribute to Harry Kalas. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
I was wondering when I first came here, geez, do I belong here in Philadelphia?
Powering drive. Watch this baby way out of here.
One of the many beauties of baseball is the fact that I've been doing it so many years, and every year I see something on the playing field that I've never ever seen before.
Make a long drive. There it is. Number 500.
The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball. I guess what I would want is hopefully that the fans did enjoy it while I was doing it.